All right, we are joined by Wayne Bledsoe, writer, artist, music lover, festival namesake.
Yeah.
How you doing, man?
Doing good.
Tell us a little bit about how you got started writing or doing art. When was your first gig, like, as a writer?
I worked for the high school newspaper, not worked for, but I wrote for the high school newspaper when I went to Halls High School 1,000 years ago. And then in 81, I got hired at the News Sentinel to be a copy clerk.
Do you remember what either of your first articles were?
The first one was like a column for the neighborhood section. And I wrote kind of a satirical defense of Halls while my friend Doug Mason wrote one of Powell, because we were from, rival areas of Knox County. So that was the first thing I wrote.
Okay.
For the newspaper. And then, as time went on, there was nobody writing about music. Nobody's writing about country music or jazz. Betsy Pickle wrote some about rock. But I started writing stuff just for free. The union kind of looked the other way because they knew what I was doing. And what was funny is I don't have my degree. So I went in to the managing editor at the time and I said, look, if I back and got my degree, you've been publishing the stuff that I write, would you hire me as a writer? And he said, oh no, we only hire from larger newspapers. We wouldn't hire you as a writer. So about 6 months later, he was gone. And the person who replaced him had been the wire editor in Washington for Scripps Howard News. And he'd been having my stuff typed in and sent all across the country. So at the time that I was being told that they only hire from larger newspapers, I was being published in the Chicago Tribune and didn't know it. I had stories all over the country, and it wasn't until this guy came in, his name was Burl Schwartz, that I realized my stories were going out all over the United States.
So he came in, he was more familiar with your stuff, and gave you a better...
Well, he thought I was a writer.
Oh, he already knew...
He thought I was a writer because he was putting my stuff in. And kind of in between that time, I'd become a graphic artist / copy clerk. Half the week I would do art, and half the week I would... Copy clerk was the guy who used to pull the stories off the teletype machine and separate them out. So he said, next writer job comes up, put in for it. So I did, and I got hired.
Awesome. Was there any particular writer or author that you tried to model yourself after, that you particularly looked up to when you started writing?
Not particularly. I mean, I'd grown up reading Rolling Stone, and I read the newspaper. I read Newsweek, so I probably read more, nationally printed movie critics. I knew Jay Cox and people like that, names like that, and then. There's Chet Flippo in Rolling Stone. I used to read his stuff a lot. So, and then later I discovered Lester Bangs, which I could never get away with writing like Lester Bangs did. They wouldn't have printed it in the paper, but he's really the king.
There's some authors, some writers that they just have a certain style that only they can get away with.
Yeah.
But you have a certain style as well. You can tell when it's a Wayne Bledsoe article. You've got a certain amount... it's a reverence, I think, for the music and the area, the community, that you and Jack Neely particularly both have a certain reverence for this area and what artists and musicians are contributing, and that definitely comes out in your writing.
Thank you.
You're also obviously a very talented artist. We were talking, you got started doing these when you were young with McCormick food coloring.
Yeah, I've done art ever since I was a little kid, but it was like you can't afford inks.
Yeah, that stuff is expensive. Art supplies are super expensive.
Yeah, if you're on oil painting, God Almighty, I can't imagine being able to afford as much oil as you'd want. But I started using food color because it was there and it was cheap. And it's through the years I've kind of developed a style with it, and it's fun to work with.
We were talking about the unique character of the vibrance of the colors is a lot different than what you get with watercolors. Yep. It's got almost like a marker quality to it as far as that real fluorescent color. What got you into doing more of the psychedelic stuff? Cerebral.
Most of these came out of meetings I would have really boring meetings at the News Sentinel. And the only way I can pay attention during things like this, I mean, I guess when I'd have classes before and take notes and things that I would, if I wasn't actively taking notes, I was drawing, because that's the only way I can pay attention. And people at the News Sentinel got used to the fact that every time I'd go into a meeting, I'd be drawing, but I would be paying attention.
Yeah.
So, the more boring the meeting, the better the drawing I got.
Did you ever consider doing comics or anything?
Back when the Hall Shopper first started,
Yeah.
I submitted some comics to Sandra Clark, and she decided they were too radical.
Okay. Well, see, I think in like the format now, and particularly in the contemporary media, I think it'd be a lot more well accepted. You ought to give that a shot again. And you obviously are a big supporter of music as well. You've done art for album covers.
Yeah.
You have the Waynestock Fest. Tell me about the origins of Waynestock and what...
Well, Waynestock started when my son Andrew died. And he died of a heart condition in 2010. And my friends got together, Steve Wildsmith and Tim and Susan Lee and Will Wright and Nick Harrison and Don Coffey, I think, was in that first meeting. I'm afraid I'm leaving somebody out. I think I am, but I'll get back to it. But anyway, they got together the night of my son's memorial service at the Bijou and went to the bistro and decided to come up with something to help my family. And, if they'd done no more than that, it would have still meant a lot to me. But then right at the beginning of February, the end of January in 2011, they put on this festival. And it was 3 days, and it was most everybody I knew that played,
Yeah.
They were all pretty much all friends. And it was such a good feeling, and it really did help. Nothing fixes you, but it's nice to just realize people are trying to take care of you.
Yeah.
And
well, you'd been so supportive of the community for years as well. They had to do something, but to see that kind of the music support, the support from the music community is one thing, but then to see support from the community at large as well is quite another.
Well, it was amazingly big and successful.
Yeah.
And
continues to be.
Yeah. And part of it is I've become friends with local musicians, and one of kind of my missions, I've kind of made it an unstated mission to give Knoxville music the attention it deserved, because we had people here in Knoxville and the Bay Area that were every bit as good as these people who were making a dent nationally.
Yeah.
And it was frustrating to me that they didn't get any appreciation.
It's evident with so many bands that have come from Knoxville. You've got Superdrags and Whitechapels and 10 Years. You've got them across the spectrum of music that have just gone on to do incredible things. The V-Roys. I mean.
And then, people you never think about. There's Richard Trithall, who was kind of a pioneer in avant-garde music that Nate's like, he's a great pianist. And he became a teacher at the University of Rome. He just retired.
Wow.
But he was great. He won a contest with the Knoxville Symphony for them to perform one of his pieces when he was a teenager. I think he was I'm not even sure he was a teenager. He may have been 12.
Yeah, wow.
But,
And it's something he'd composed himself at that age.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and you've got people like that all over.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super important to highlight the talent in a local area. It's everywhere. Every area has their prodigies, their true luminaries, and it's incumbent upon people like you to really expose people to them. So you expose the broader mass of the population to them. So
well, Steve Wildsmith kind of had the same attitude. Steve Wildsmith did an awful lot.
Another fantastic writer. And
then some of the Metropulse people, Lee Gardner. And Eric Dawson and different people like that. I'm leaving out somebody from Metropulse. But, I think it became sort of a cause for a lot of us to get people recognized.
Yeah.
And, get people out. That was the thing is, some big name would come to town and they'd charge $75 for a ticket, and you had somebody playing down the street that was $5 and their show was better.
Yeah.
Because, I reviewed stuff every week. There was a time I was reviewing 3 shows a week.
Yeah.
And I went to see Eric Clapton in Philadelphia to do a story, and I came back 2 days later and saw Colonel Bruce Hampton, who might as well have been local at that time.
Absolutely.
And Bruce was a better show. You know, I mean, Clapton had, you know, thousands of people there, and I saw Bruce at Flamingos playing to, you know, 50 people maybe.
And you can still catch him down at Barley's every once in a while.
You could. Yeah, you could. He died on stage.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bruce was great.
Also, I wanted to ask about, you had any suggestions or ideas for bands or artists or writers that are trying to make a dent in the newer culture today? Like, I mean, with online, it's changed so much.
I mean, I think that's the mystery for everybody in music, is how do I get my name out there, and how do I make any money at this?
No.
You know, I mean, it's gone back to worse than it was in the 50s. In the 50s, nobody was making money off their records. They were making money off the shows, and then they'd sell their records at the shows and make a little cash then. Now, if you make it big, if a major label wants to sign you, they want you to sign a 360 deal, which means they get a big chunk of your merch. They get a big chunk of everything. Mm-hmm. So I don't see how anybody makes any money.
No.
I mean, you look at somebody like maybe Macklemore. He did it all himself. You know, he marketed himself. He went, you know, stuff on YouTube. He was out there, so he could start his own thing and make his own money.
And when you can kind of control that, that's where the money comes from, is being able to control all of your merchandising, your licensing, anything like that.
And your publishing.
Yeah, any of your publishing.
And it was interesting because I don't want to say his name because it was a story told in confidence, but a friend of mine who was signed to a big independent, they had plans with a big producer, great producer, to produce his next album. He went to start the recording process, and the company wanted him to sign his publishing with them. Oh. And they made the deal contingent on that. And he said,
it kind of forced his hand.
He said, take a hike.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bad business, and it changes so frequently. I mean, and you see how the labels and distributors, promoters, all that are having to adapt with the Spotifys and YouTubes and any streaming kind of medium. But when you were working with Metropulse before it went down, you had album reviews that were published all the time in a well-read circulatory. Now you've got Blank, and there aren't a lot of circulatories like that out there anymore for people to get an awareness on what's new. You've got your news feed.
Right. Well, I never worked for Metropulse. It was, you know, everything with me was the New Sentinel since '81 until I left 2 years ago. But you know, it's the major papers. They've laid off everybody like me. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's another just, you know, old time music writer working at any paper anymore. No. Metropulse is, of course, a great outlet for me. But, you know, they can only afford to pay me for one story a month.
Oh, Blank.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's probably the same with all independents. It's either people who are writing for free or...
Yeah, so much of it's volunteer, doing it out of love.
Yeah, but... Good.
Oh, man, a lot of them are younger people, too, trying to just get the exposure as well. You know, trying to get their words out there, so... If
I had to look at all the stuff that I wrote when I was in my 20s... It was pretty bad. You know, it takes a long time. I mean, the people who write for Blank are really good, but it takes a long time to be good at it. Yeah, it does. Is there an article that you wrote that you're particularly proud of? Gosh, back then, you know, I can tell you at any time. Well, you know, the Arthur Q. Smith thing. I first read about Arthur Q. Smith in 1991. Actually, I mentioned him. He was part of a week-long series I did in country music in the Sentinel in '85. And Red Rector and his wife, Parker, told me about him. And I kept finding more and more little things about him. And then I met his family through Nancy Brune Strange and wrote a column on him. And Arthur Q. Smith was a great songwriter who wrote tons of country songs and some really big country hits. but he was an alcoholic, and he sold his songs for $15-$25 a piece outright.
You hear that a lot.
And other people put their names on them.
Yeah.
So I wrote that little column in '91, and then years later, Brad Reeves, who started the Tennessee Archive of Moving Image and Sound, he had read that and became interested, and eventually he got a deal with Bear Family Records for us to write. He was going to put out an album, and we wrote the liner notes, which was a book.
Yeah.
And we wrote that together, and that was nominated for a Grammy. So that was that's one of the biggest. But other things I've written that were not about music. I went out and spent the day with people who did, dirty jobs. Spent the day with a guy who picks up the dead animals off the highway. And I was really proud of that story. It's how many stories can you start off with on a Sunday morning that say, I think it started off with, "It sure is a beautiful morning," said Tom Cottard, just before throwing the carcass of a dead dog in the back of his truck.
And to take something so grim, macabre, or otherwise mundane, and to make it interesting to read is it's fun to do.
Well, see, that's the great thing about being a reporter, at least in the old days. It's like if you thought, well, who does that? You could call them up and say, hey, I want to write about something in the newspaper, and they'd talk to you. Or like I did, I went out and spent the day. It was a gross day, but it was like I always wondered, where do these dead animals go? Who picks them up? Mm-hmm. And I found out everything about this guy and how it works. I can tell you how they pick up the dead animals and where they put them. But it was, as I was inducted into the East Tennessee Writers Hall of Fame last year, and I was telling the story. It's about that story that I did. And you don't get any awards for that. What you get are angry women calling up and saying, you ruined my Sunday morning breakfast with your story.
But see, that's the kind of stuff. Have you ever thought about doing a compilation of your writings?
Well, all that stuff would be owned by the New Sentinel, so
you can't get it.
So I couldn't do that. But
okay.
You
couldn't petition Gannett to get it.
Well, if I did, they'd make all the money off of it. I guarantee you. But I've done stuff since then. I've done a few things. I've done some freelance stuff. I did the thing for Spin. I did a thing for Country Weekly. There's the Delta Sky magazine. It's in Delta Airlines.
Yeah.
I did a cover story for them on music in Tennessee. So there's a lot of other stuff that's out there.
Right on. And obviously you still do the art and everything. Mm-hmm. You mentioned that you're going to have a website up soon. Is it going to be featuring just art and writing, or going to be services available?
It's probably going to be both. I'm going to sell the artwork, and then I'm going to have a blog. I wrote a few things called The Angry Gardener, which is the most profanity-laced gardening column. I did landscape last year, and it made me reappreciate how much I hate certain plants.
That sounds like it could be a really good YouTube show.
Yeah, I've thought about I may do it for YouTube too, and just have a link on there for that.
At least you've got the scripts already.
Oh yeah, they're already written. It was funny. I submitted them. I thought I just did it for fun, so I submitted them to Rusty Odom.
Yeah,
Blank and said, look, I got this idea, and Blank, there's no profanity. He is it's super clean. And this is just everything. Talking about Nandina bushes and Bradford pears, which I despise. It's so I submitted it to him on April Fool's Day. I said, look, I really want to do this column. I think, it's going to be good. People will like it. And he finally read it, and it was this is great, but do you think we could lose the profanity? Because
yeah, there's a few things I've sent his way that he's like, no.
every other word.
We put these in churches, right?
Yeah, it was. I just love making Rusty uncomfortable, saying, "No, we really can't do this."
Well, Wayne, thanks for talking to us. Any way that people can reach out to you, find out more about your art, or if they need some album art, or maybe they want your writing skills, or.
Well, I host the shows on WDVX all over the road in the 6 o'clock swerve, so my email is on there. Or if you want to email me, it's Igamore, that's IGAMORE 2001 at yahoo.com.
we didn't even talk about DVX and 6 o'clock Swerve. We've been talking about everything else.
Well, there aren't a lot of stuff.
Well, you started All Over the Road, and that's the late night show, right?
Well, I didn't actually start All Over the Road. My friend Mike Flanagan did it. My association with WDVX is when Tony came up with the idea, he told me last time we talked about it that he thinks I was the first person he talked to about it. We went out to lunch, and it was such a crazy idea. Number one, it was like it ought to happen, but I was afraid it wouldn't happen. But I was on the original board of directors. And then when it came time to write a story about it, which is way before we had call letters, I said, well, I can't write about it and be on the board, so I got off so it wouldn't be a conflict of interest. Mm-hmm. So I got off, I wrote a big story on it for the New Sentinel about what people wanted to do, and it alerted people like Benny Smith, who was very involved in it. Yeah, I think I remember him, calling me up and getting Tony's phone number from me. But that was 92, maybe 93, I can't remember. But then DVX just celebrated its 20th year last year, so.
No. And moved from a little place in Clinton to downtown Knoxville.
Yeah, it was in a camper. Started out on a back porch, and then it moved to a camper right outside of Norris in Clinton. And the people who started it were real pioneers. I mean, Tony Lawson came up with the idea. Don Bergeraff really got it on the air. And then the show that I hosted late night that I've hosted for the past 15, 16 years is All Over the Road. Mike Flanagan, who was my friend at the New Sentinel, started that. And when Mike died, I took over doing it every other week. And then when Mary Lou Cameron, who used to swap off weeks with me, she got sick, so I started doing it every week.
Okay.
And then 2.5 years ago, Roger Harb hit me up with the possibility of doing an afternoon evening show. So we started the 6 o'clock Swerve, and that's an hour with a live performer, and it's developed into I make up a bio.
Yeah.
Which is like, the most ludicrous stuff that nobody would believe, except sometimes they do. And then do some interviewing with it, and then we do the musical weather.
No.
Chris Bratta, who was with the Timley 3 at the time, started playing a beat when I started reading the weather.
No.
And it started becoming popular, so now it's part of it.
Yeah. It's so cool that WDVX has that live expression on air. You hear too many radio stations. It's just canned studio music, one after the other. They break up the monotony so well with the Blue Plate Special, the 6 o'clock Swerve, all the features and artists and interviews that they have on there. It's just a true asset to the local music and just the local community in general.
Well, it's real old-fashioned radio, because now 90%, if not more, of the radio stations you go in. Well, and if you've got like a local DJ, they go in, and in 1 hour they have read everything in between the songs that they're going to read. They put it in the computer in little sound bites, and then they leave. Mm-hmm. And I'm there at midnight to 3 a.m. every Saturday night, and people used to call up and go, "You're really there?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "You think I'd screw up this much if I could edit myself?" We screw up all the time.
Yeah.
And that's the charm of it. To me, radio is about connecting with somebody who's really there.
No.
When I was a kid and would turn on the radio, you knew the DJ was there no matter what time it was. And you followed their personality. Tony Lawson, who started DVX, he's one of the greats. Because when any show he was doing, I could listen, and I knew why he was playing one song against another one. This one may be written by the person that did the song beforehand.
Yeah.
And it's like, it all makes sense. And that's what I try to do with the All Over the Road show, is like I have themes, and, I want people to go along with me.
Yeah.
It's kind of a journey.
Yeah.
And, the Swerve, I've tried to make it as fun as possible and, keep it.
It's very unique.
Yeah.
It's incredibly unique.
Well, thanks. Yeah. But yeah, and people, it's like, one of the things I'm proudest about both those shows is it's become kind of a rite of passage for bands and
for a lot of local musicians.
Yeah, especially the late night show. Mm-hmm. If you hadn't come out and hung out with me at midnight and, gotten kind of stupid, you need to do it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And once again, where can people reach out to you?
The best place right now is just go to WDVX and look me up on the website, because that's my personal email that's on there.
Okay.
And it's easy to find. I'll get back with you. And if you do a search for Wayne Bledsoe art, you will find the website when this website gets up. Plus, you can just see examples. I mean, Jack Strangler has stuff up. Brandon Folsom has his album cover up. Handsome and the Humbles have their album cover up.
Yeah.
I did photos for Sneaky Pete Rizzo's albums. We did a photo session, and I think he used them for 4 albums. He puts out albums like crazy, but he's great.
Well, you heard. It's a rite of passage to come by midnight and speak with him. If you're a local band you haven't been by all over the road, get in touch with Wayne Bledsoe. Man, thanks for speaking with
Appreciate
us.
it.
Absolutely. Don't forget to subscribe or like ProMotion. Stay in touch with us, and don't miss another one of these awesome interviews.